Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Lauren here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Ben, and he's selling his Amazon FBA and e-commerce business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Welcome to the show, Ben. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, and I'm really excited to learn more about your business. But before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of the business. This is an Amazon FBA and e-commerce business created in June 2013 in the electronic accessories niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $25,018, and it makes an average of $7,262 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 56518 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. Speaking of assets, let's see what assets are included in the sale. There is an Amazon Central Seller account with 30 SKUs, a domain and all site content and files, a trademark, an email list with 2,034 contacts, supplier relationships, and a Facebook and Instagram social media accounts. It's important to note that inventory is not normally included in the list price, but further details can be provided to active buyers who unlock this listing. So now that we know more about the business we're discussing, let's learn more about the seller. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Frankly, I had no background in selling running online businesses. I used to work in software, but after getting laid off from a job, I had a widget idea that I came up with, and I just ran with it.
Well, fantastic. So, Ben, what made you choose the Amazon FBA business model over something like a traditional e-commerce store, for example?
I chose both, and part of that was I was overseas when I started the project, and FBA allows you to ship directly from supplier to a warehouse, removing a lot of the problems with labor and having to have warehouses. And initially, this was a great place to start. But later, to add on to that, I did open a Shopify storefront, especially to serve B2B customers.
Fantastic. And did you have any previous experience in the electronics accessories niche?
No, not at all. I always made widgets on my own, but this was the first time I actually decided to try and make a business out of it.
And how did you come up with the idea to start this business in particular and with a specific product?
Honestly, again, I would say I was an accidental entrepreneur. I had this idea about 6 months before actually starting it, and I shelved it and I got laid off. And then I did a Kickstarter campaign back when those were hip in 2013, and it took off. So taking that growth, I went to start an online store and try and scale better. Amazon was the best choice, and it's really where people go to discover new products. It's a search engine for products.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely sounds like you've experienced a lot of success with the business. What are the reasons that you're selling it now?
My lifestyle has changed a lot since the last 9 years. I have a new family. I live in another country again, and it's a lot harder to operate as easily, especially within time zone, and deal with 3PLs than it used to be. So for me, I think it's a little bit more stability and just day-to-day functioning for my family and I.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you've come a long way, and I'm sure you've had a great learning journey as you've gone along. Are there any lessons that you've learned from this business that you would apply to future sites or businesses?
Yeah, I've learned a lot of details that make it a little bit easier. Number one, photography is one of the most important things, especially online. For online businesses, that is, getting strong visual assets are a huge part of it. Other ones, making sure your supply chain is always intact and seeing what you can do to keep it with an overstock is really important, especially over the last year or two with the pandemic. It's grown to be increasingly difficult for everyone involved in e-commerce.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a rough road for many businesses. I'm sure during your journey with this business, there have been a few things that didn't quite work out as planned. If you had to go back and start the business adventure again, is there anything that you would do differently the second time around?
Yeah, I would say like one of the biggest things that I did that helped move the business forward was work with, I guess you could say a virtual assistant, but an Amazon account specialist. And this is a person that kind of knows all the levers and whistles and bells you can do with Amazon to make sure that you're getting ranked. If you do have a problem with a product, you can get it relisted. Just even like if there's another copycat, which we've had to deal with in the past, they can get them removed for even using our own image assets, which is crazy. So this would have accelerated the business a lot faster. This is something I would do in the future.
Yeah, having a knowledgeable person to lean on like that, I'm sure was a huge help. So you're in e-commerce as well as Amazon. So where does the majority of the traffic come to your business from?
I would say Amazon is by far the largest source of sales, at least currently. With the pandemic, a lot of the business shifted from B2B to consumer. I imagine when things start opening up again, B2B will kind of go back up. But we've had a lot of press from nerdy websites like accessory websites, tech journals, and a lot of it actually just came word of mouth, say like within San Francisco, which was one of our prime markets, of IT specialists contacting other IT specialists trying to figure out solutions for their cable management problems.
Fantastic. Yeah, word of mouth is definitely very powerful. So do you do anything currently in terms of paid marketing?
We do PPC campaigns on Amazon, but I do not really have the savvy or have not found a way to make it effective for, say, like Google. What I have found to be most effective is really trying to find a way to do content marketing or partnerships with like websites, whether articles get written. Those tend to be the most effective I've found.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps to get your brand out there and increase the brand awareness.
Totally.
So, Ben, if you were to keep the business, what are some of the major growth opportunities that you've identified that you would use to try and grow the business further?
I think there was 2 or 3 areas that would be really helpful. One would be scaling to international growth. With COVID and my current location, it's been very difficult to try and build this out internationally, especially for the scale of our products. We have very small products, but it's difficult to like ship them cost effectively. So this is something I think could be worked on. Another one would actually just be expanding the product line itself. So currently we've worked on a lot of the cable management, but I think this could be expanded out into other areas for other electronics accessories, leveraging the brand's identity. We've been on Amazon for 8 years. We have a track history and great reviews. And I think this could be used to like make other accessories successful as well. So keeping the quality high and making sure people get what they pay for.
Yeah, those are all fantastic points, and we definitely elevate the business to a whole new level. Ben, you've touched on your supply chain a bit in the conversation so far. Can you walk me through where suppliers are based and how your inventory gets from the suppliers to the customer?
Sure. So we have a couple different options. I've worked with the one main supplier for almost 9 years now, and he is fantastic. He's worked really hard to keep a great relationship with me. He lets me know ahead of time how things go. But typically, we go back and forth between shipping directly to Amazon from the supply chain in southern China, Dongguan region. And that really hasn't been an issue. Of course, everyone's shipping times and prices are going up because of pandemic. We also have a 3PL in Colorado just to make sure we have an overstock warehouse as well. And that's to take care of Amazon putting inventory allotment quotas on everybody's account right now. And that's a necessary feature. So that way we have them prepackaged and can ship them out to Amazon within a day or two notice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good workaround to have that overstock warehouse.
It's essential at this time, especially for the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you walk me through your role in the business? How many hours per week do you work on the business, and what sort of tasks take up your time?
Sure. So I'm the founder, and it's largely a single person business at this point. I did interact with the 3PL in Colorado and the supplier, but most of the day-to-day work is just kind of keeping up with inventory management, reviewing customer concerns, customer reviews, and just consulting with the Amazon specialist as well. So in case there's something that has to come up for Q4, obviously it's kind of a busy time, but once you've done the work ahead of time, then it's kind of set it and forget it because there's nothing you can change for shipping times. But I would say it's probably about 10 to 12 hours a week of work. If you're a little bit more efficient than myself, especially not having as much time to start and stop, you could probably get it done in 2 days a week. I would say it's important to kind of stagger out the hours just because problems arise one day, they come back a couple days later. So dealing with that way is the easiest. It's a lot of hurry up and wait tasks, I find.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a good process in place, though, fairly streamlined.
Yeah, I think so. Man, only had 8.5, 9 years to do it.
So you've obviously got a lot of experience under your belt with this business, but for someone who's not familiar with the electronics accessories niche or your particular business model, what skills or requirements would you say they'd need to run this business successfully?
I tend to think for electronic accessories, the thing that's going to happen is that you need to kind of keep on top of research. So that means going to Amazon, searching in potential your search terms or competitors' terms, kind of seeing what's out there, making sure that you're relevant, identifying potential competitors or people who might be using or taking your IP, which does happen from time to time. Another thing is making sure that you're handy with Excel to make sure you take care of all your supply chain needs, making sure you have enough inventory in time. So being organized is a really important task. As far as other kind of needs, I think marketing and ability to kind of see whether your assets are kind of matching up to the competition is really important as well. Just to make sure that you're staying relevant on Amazon, making sure that your assets look good is really important. And that helps you keep ranked higher.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic point. You've touched on a couple of these things already, but what would you say are the biggest risks associated with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
One of the toughest ones is we do have some accessories that interface with Apple products, and Apple tends to come into the Amazon store, do a search for anything that says, one of their terms, and then your item might get booted. So every time they put back online, but it can be a pain dealing with customer service, typically in India, that says, you can't use this term. And it's like, yes, you're allowed to say compatible with whatever item. So this is in Amazon's guidelines. So that's just kind of a cat and mouse game that you have to play with this, which is annoying, but you're allowed to design accessories for whatever products you want. It doesn't say that you're making that product. Other ones are commodity prices and shipping, just like everyone else is having to deal with prices of commodities such as silicone that we use. It's a struggle everywhere. And shipping prices. Obviously, if you are a much larger purchaser and you can exhibit economies of scale and you pack in several of our current product line in with your other products, that would be fantastic. I would say 10 to 15% of the margin right there. Shipping is a huge component of the business right now. And that's for everyone. That's just a global problem.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely something that everyone's been battling with. You've obviously found out ways to solve these problems. What sort of support would you be willing to offer buyers to help ease them into this business?
Sure. So, obviously, I want to see this product line continue and be successful. It's something that I invented, and I'd like to see it still in the world. It solves a lot of people's problems. I'm happy to try and help out, make sure that they have all the contacts necessary, obviously with the suppliers, freight forwarders, and 3PL to make sure whether that engagement makes sense. And happy to make sure that if they do have questions, I'm like, oh, what do I need to do here? For a month after the purchase, I'll be there to answer questions.
Fantastic. I think that'll reassure a lot of interested buyers. With regards to the sale, would you be open to negotiating something like an earnout?
Yeah, that's fine. We're not in a mad dash to sell the company, but it's obviously makes it easier for the purchase. So that isn't a problem here.
Wonderful. And would you be willing to commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yeah, for certain. I just feel it wouldn't be fair to do that.
Perfect. So Ben, what advice would you give to our listeners that you wish you knew when you first started out in this business?
I think it's really important to know when to push back to a supplier or a potential partner, and then when to accept it. So sometimes someone will say, this is the price, and you can do the math backwards. Say, like, if you look at an Amazon listing and you can look at the FBA price calculator, you're like, okay, to make some kind of margin out of this, like, I need to price it roughly about this. When I first started, several suppliers listed these insane prices, and you're like, well, that's just not going to work. The math doesn't put itself together. And so I would say make sure to keep a critical eye towards it, especially with dealing with suppliers in China. Like, the idea, I don't think, is to kind of beat down the price so low that the quality will suffer. Quality is going to be your best friend and moving forward and keeping the brand and the product successful long term. So, was one of my friends say, I'm not so rich as to buy cheap things. So it's important to have a good supplier with a good relationship to keep your product and business successful.
That's a great point, and that's a fine line to walk. And as you say, a lot of novices wouldn't know that. So that's fantastic advice. Was there any software tools or resources that really helped you run the business more smoothly?
Yeah, I think everyone can probably say Amazon Seller Central leaves much to be desired. There are several tools you can try, and trying to automate some of those daily tasks is what got me down to a much lower hours per week number. Stuff like sending automated messages, Sage Mailer is a great one. Depending on your analytics and how in depth you want to go with like the product listings, Selix is a reasonable tool. And I've actually been building my own inventory management tool just in response to like the problems with current situation. So finding some kind of inventory management tool is going to be crucial to make sure that you're always in supply, because when you run out of stock, then Amazon penalizes the listing and it's so hard to get back up to the top of your rankings.
Yeah, definitely. That's a struggle that I think a lot of people have dealt with in the past year.
For sure.
So Ben, the last question of the interview, and one that I think the buyers will be listening to most keenly, is if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
We've worked really hard to maintain a solid brand for 8.5 years. And what could be seen as a commodity market, we make stellar versions of these objects. You can buy ours and you can buy our competitors, and you're going to see the difference in there. The other thing that I think that's really fantastic about ours is that we've curated a lot of relationships with most of the big Fortune 500 companies in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, that they still contact us and say, hey, we're outfitting a new building. Can you supply XYZ? Or a school district might say, we need 1,000, 5,000 of these. And it's great, like full profit, especially when it's direct business, which is great. And, the world is going to open up again. And on Amazon, there's still a lot of room for growth. We're largely only in the US market, but if you can expand that out to Europe, which a lot of calls come in every day on our site, or not calls, but emails come into our site. And it's like, hey, are you in Europe? And it's like, no. So if you can find a way to get distribution there, there's still a large undiscovered potential there.
Definitely, yeah. Those are all very compelling reasons. It sounds like you've got a really valuable business on your hands here.
I'd like to think so. I worked very hard on it. And I think, the upcoming customer or her business partner that might acquire it will come into a great product and company brand that they can develop further than myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly sounds like it. Ben, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that I might have missed?
I don't think so. I'm not sure what else I would add to it. Stay safe, wear a mask.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for your time, Ben. It's been really great talking to you and learning more about your business.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 56518. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you unlock this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.